All right, guys, so we got to talk about Colin Kaepernick today. Our favorite athlete that is allegedly being blackballed from the NFL, right? And in his part-time, while he's not training to get back in the league that he compares to a slave plantation, he's a social justice activist, okay? And apparently, while he's not training to get back on a slave plantation or being a social justice activist, he's a businessman, right? Probably not a very good businessman, as it seems, but he's a businessman, okay? As he started his own SPAC, right? And his SPAC is just a special purpose acquisition company. All it is that it's an empty shell company that raises a ton of money, and it gets listed on the exchange with the goal of taking a smaller company public, okay? The goal is to acquire a company and then to take that company public through a merger. Okay, now this is similar to what Trump is doing with Truth Social Media. Okay, he merged with DWAC, that SPAC, Digital World Acquisition Company. I think that's what the acronym stands for. Apparently, his company and that company, they're merging together to take Trump's social media company public. Okay, just to put it in layman's terms for you guys who may not necessarily understand the nitty-gritty finance stuff. Okay, but yes, Kaepernick is doing this. However, his latest deal fell apart, causing him to lose a whole lot of money. And probably for the stupidest reason ever, but the most Kaepernick reason ever as well. So let's actually read about this, because I think this is actually an interesting conversation about Kaepernick and whether or not the dude is actually still even marketable, considering how defund the police is probably the most unpopular political movement / policy in the country right now. And this dude is literally the face of defund the police, as he's the one that really made that movement as prominent as it is. So let's read here. Former NFL quarterback turned social activist Colin Kaepernick lost out on a lucrative business deal with a social justice driven lender after he refused to promote the business on national television. Again, the most Kaepernick reason ever. Okay, let's read more here. The failure of Kaepernick's special purpose acquisition company, Mission Advancement Corp, to finalize a deal with the Change Company, a lender that prioritizes serving minority borrowers, has sparked questions over how much businesses stand to benefit from partnering with the washed up athlete, according to the Wall Street Journal. Well, I can tell you right now, they don't stand to really benefit or gain anything from it, right? Unless you're a company like Nike that's actively trying to market Kaepernick. Okay, you have paid marketers and advertisers that know how to use Kaepernick's image to make money. That's all you can really make from him, right? Is marketing him. However, this dude allegedly is not even willing to market itself, which is an issue. So I really don't think that a company stands to gain much of anything from associating or dealing with Kaepernick. I mean, look at NFL, for example. Okay, they dealt with Kaepernick and they had a lawsuit that they had to settle. Okay, they tried to get a man a chance to get back in the league, and Kaepernick straight up ruined it and used it as a way to smear the NFL. He turned it back around on the NFL, tried to make it a negative on the NFL, tried to say that the NFL was setting them up. So, again, if I'm some of these companies, I don't want to do any business with Kaepernick. The dude is a snake, right? He's a snake. He might stab you in the back. Because if you don't get his way, he might compare your company to a slave plantation and call you racist, call the owners racist. That's what he might do. For real, for real. Quote, the Change Company would proudly consider a partnership with Mr. Kaepernick yesterday, today, or tomorrow. Change Company CEO Steve Sugarman said in a statement after the deal ruptured. In correspondence with executives at Kaepernick's firm, Sugarman was more direct. Quote, there is a real question about whether there's a halo effect that translates into investment dollars, Sugarman wrote in a December email to Mission Advancement Corp executives. We need to question that assumption. Okay, so I think what Mr. Sugarman is talking about here is whether or not Kaepernick himself, okay, and him being a celebrity and what he's doing, trying to promote social justice, does that actually translate into investment dollars? Are people willing to actually invest in this, right? And I think one side of what he's saying is that, well, Kaepernick's not even willing to market this business that he's supposed to be acquiring, right? Because that's what the deal was. The deal was that Kaepernick SPAC is going to acquire this mission-driven lending company that's supposed to target minorities, right? And then Kaepernick is going to use his fame to go on TV and to do interviews to market the company, right? That sounds like a smart thing to do. However, Kaepernick, being the idiot that he is, was like, nah, I don't want to do any interviews. Right? I'm like, how does this make sense? How do you think that you're going to help this company grow and make money if you're not even willing to do any interviews or answer any questions about anything? But I think the problem is that Kaepernick doesn't want to go on TV and answer questions, because then he has to actually answer why in the world does he support defunding police, abolishing police? Does he support all the crime going on in this country? He's going to have to answer questions about what happened with the NFL, why he's not in the league. He's going to have to answer all types of questions that he literally has not answered for 4 or 5 years, right? And he won't even answer those questions for millions and millions of dollars. That's how you know the dude is a fraud, right? That's how you know he's a fraud. Now, the other side of what I think Mr. Sugarman is talking about here is the fact that there were a ton of big names on Wall Street that literally refused to invest in Kaepernick and his SPAC, right? For example, let's read here. Big names on Wall Street, including BlackRock, Fidelity Investments, and T. Rowe Price Group Incorporated, which are among the most active SPAC investors, said no. According to people familiar with the matter and documents reviewed by the journal, the 3 declined to comment. So BlackRock, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price was like, nah. We don't want anything to do with this, right? We're going to decline. But it gets worse. This really tells you what these people actually think about Kaepernick. Serena Williams' venture fund passed, according to those documents. So did Oprah Winfrey's money manager, Nike, and venture firm Andreessen Horowitz, whose founder is listed on Mission website as an advisor, also looked at the deal and didn't commit, the document says. Okay, so I want you to understand how bad this is. Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the most renowned private venture funds in the country, right? Probably the most famous one, okay? Is on the board of advisors for Kaepernick SPAC. And even they're like, no. We don't want no part of this deal, right? We don't want no part of this deal. We're not really going to invest any money in this, right? Nike, who actively pays and markets Kaepernick, is like, nah, we don't want any part of this. Serena Williams, who I can imagine is probably a little woke, is like, nah, we don't want no part of this. Oprah Winfrey, right? It's like, nah, we don't want no part of this. The only people that Kaepernick could get to invest in this company to commit some money to it were like small rappers like J. Cole, Quavo, Nas, people who got money but don't really got money like that when we're talking about actual real wealth, okay? They ain't got Serena Williams or Oprah Winfrey or Andreessen Horowitz money or Nike money. They don't got that type of money, right? The big money is just like, nah. We don't want anything to do with this. Okay, so I think that is what Sugarman is talking about. I think he's talking about Kaepernick and his refusal to actually market himself or to market anything or to talk. And I think he's talking about these companies that seem to not really want to be associated with him, at least not outside of trying to market him to sell their own products, right? Not to do actual real business with him, right? Not to invest in him personally. So let's read more here. The SPAC model, especially for SPACs run by celebrities, has exploded in recent years, according to Investopedia. A special purpose acquisition company is a company that has no commercial operations and is formed strictly to raise capital through an initial public offering for the purpose of acquiring or merging with an existing company, also known as blank check companies. SPACs have been around for decades, but their popularity has soared in recent years. In 2020, 247 SPACs were created with $80 billion invested, and in the first quarter of 2021, a record of $96 billion was raised from 295 newly formed SPACs. By comparison, only 2 SPACs came to the market in 2010. Kaepernick SPAC launched its initial public offering in March, raising $345 million with the stated purpose of acquiring another company with social justice aims. The acquired company could then expect Kaepernick to use his platform to promote the business and attract investors. They were mistaken if they thought Kaepernick was actually going to promote the business. Of course he wasn't. Because apparently he's not really trying to do that. Okay, which again blows my mind. Again, it really does. This guy he's crazy, man. I really don't understand this guy. The proposed merger between Kaepernick SPAC and Change fell apart after the prominent activist refused to sit for an interview with George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America, in which he could have promoted the minority-focused lender. Kaepernick also refused to do other interviews announcing and celebrating the merger, according to Wall Street Journal. So this dude just won't talk at all. This dude just refuses to talk. So guys, he won't even talk to promote a company that's supposed to be providing capital to black people, to minorities. He won't even talk. He won't even promote it. Again, what does that tell you about this guy? Okay? He won't even promote it. Again, this is supposed to be the solution to so-called systemic racism that this man claims he's fighting. But he won't go do an interview, a softball interview with George Stephanopoulos. This guy's a fraud, man. If the deal had gone through, Kaepernick and his partner at Mission Advancement Corp, John Najafi, would have received founder shares worth $80 million in a new company. So this dude, because he would not talk, because he refused to do an interview to promote this minority lending platform, is literally losing $80 million, right? He's not going to get $80 million worth of shares in the new company, which if this company continues to grow, from what I've been reading, they're pretty profitable, okay? They made over $100 million in profit. And if they, again, continue to grow, that $80 million could possibly be, $500 million or even $1 billion in the future. So again, the guy refusing to sit down for a simple interview to promote the company and losing out on what probably is $80 million today and maybe $500 million or $1 billion in the future, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. It might be the stupidest thing I've read in my life, right? Yeah, I really don't understand. But let's read here. After Kaepernick's last NFL game at the end of the season, 26th season, the ex-athlete has leaned into social justice activism after rising to prominence for his protest of the U.S. national anthem. He has since struck multi-million-dollar deals with Disney and Nike while keeping constant criticism of the NFL, police, and others while promoting social justice causes. Last month, popular podcaster Joe Rogan went after Kaepernick for comparing playing in the NFL to slavery. Quote, imagine comparing the ability to do it or to not do it. You sign up for it. Everybody, like so many people who play football, want to be in the NFL. It's a goal. It's a dream. You can make millions of dollars. And imagine comparing that to slavery simply because they measure people's physical performance, Rogan said. Quote, that's what he's doing. He was measuring like wingspans in the combine scores, like for weightlifting and speed and all that. He noted that's to see how physically adept you are, how good you are at football, so they'll give you a ton of money. The idea that it's comparable to slavery, whoever effing wrote that down, and then the fact that he read it and said it, and then had that video where they're comparing the NFL owners to slave masters and they're shaking their hands with each other. What the F are you talking about? Kaepernick doesn't know what he's talking about, right? He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Okay, that's why he won't do an interview because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Again, guys, this right here is sad and pathetic, man. This guy Kaepernick, I really don't understand this guy. I really don't. How in the world do you give up acquiring a company and $80 million worth of shares simply because you refuse to sit down and talk and do an interview? To me, that's just a smoking gun evidence that this guy is a fraud, which is what people with any common sense or that's been watching this situation closely from the get-go have been saying. This dude is fraudulent, right? So, hey, man, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't expect a communist to be a good capitalist or a decent businessman. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.